Joining also together with the Prime Minister Abe and Prime Minister Ardern, working to power up Papua New Guinea into the future. So this is what Step Up's all about. It's about delivering on the ground, working with partners. I can also say that yesterday I had the opportunity for a brief meeting also with President Xi, which I welcomed. And we were able to reflect on the very positive meetings that I had with Premier Li Keqiang in Singapore, and that followed also the very positive meetings that our foreign ministers had previously, both in New York and here. So this has been a good progress that we've been making in each of our relationships, and this was recognised, of course, by President Xi, but also the progress we'd made at these more recent meetings. But there was also a commitment that we would work together where there are opportunities to work together. There is no exclusion in the way we seek to work in the Pacific, and where we can work together on important projects and partner for the good of the Pacific. Well, that's what we want. We want the good of the Pacific, because what's good for the Pacific is good for Australia.
PM, is Australia still seeking to build the PNG's domestic undersea cable project, or is that one lost to Huawei?
Well, there are a range of different projects. What we're talking about here today is not that project. We've been involved with other projects that have also linked back to other parts of the region, and they're separate to that. So that's a different project, the one we've talked about today.
Can I ask you about Lombrum? How big is the fund? How much is Australia going to spend, and over what period of time?
Well, we haven't made those announcements yet, and when we are in a position to do so, we will. I should have mentioned that in relation to the electrification project, that's Australia is putting in $25 million a year to support that project, and we'll be bringing other elements of the package that I announced on the Step Up program as required or as considered, and that will also work in with the other partners that are part of that project. But I need to stress very clearly, the Lombrum initiative is a PNG-led initiative. They are leading this project. They have invited ourselves and the United States. We were, together with the United States, part of the work-up program back in August, and that has been able to inform our ongoing participation at this stage. And as the project becomes more detailed, then obviously we'll be in a position at that point.
For our security umbrella?
Well, it's an important part of the strategic set of arrangements we have in place in our region. I mean, it's just, I think it's fairly obvious. And it not only provides the opportunity for the collaboration from a defence support point of view, but the other thing it does is this will also be the base for where the Pacific patrol boats, which we're gifting to Papua New Guinea, will also be based. Now, ensuring that they have integrity over their fisheries in the Pacific is massively important to their economic security. And so there are both civil as well as strategic elements to what we're doing. And but at the end of the day, this Lombrum is sovereign Papua New Guinea base, and we are there at their invitation, and we will work this project up at their pace and on their leadership.
It's already been said by Christopher Pyne that he believes, subject to consultations with PNG, that it's likely or probable that Australian vessels will eventually be based at Lombrum. Do you think that it's probable also that over time US vessels could be based at Lombrum?
Well, they're matters for the US to comment on.
Did you discuss the Lombrum initiative with President Xi?
Well, it was a very brief meeting, so he didn't raise it with me and I didn't raise it with him. We were focused on our relationship and what we were doing together. So, and that was particularly focusing on the very positive and quite lengthy meeting that Premier Li Keqiang and I had in Singapore, and we were both very happy with the outcomes of that meeting and all the issues that we were able to address there. And I left the discussion very encouraged.
Is the airport
the
part
message
of the
being sent
Lombrum
by the
base?
US in relation to China yesterday was very, very strong, in particular with this announcement about a former naval base on Manus Island. Do you share those same views that Vice President Pence shared yesterday about China's risk to the region, particularly in South Pacific?
Well, I express Australia's views. And Australia's view is that, of course, we want to see an Indo-Pacific which is open and which is free and which respects all independent sovereign states and nations that are within the Indo-Pacific. And I believe that is ultimately what everybody wants. And I think that's the objective that we stay focused on. So I don't get basically drawn in to the commentary on the various announcements or initiatives of the various parties that are involved here. Our role here is to ensure that we maximise Australia's interests, and that is done by working incredibly constructively with our long-term partner in the United States and great friend and ally, and working very closely with the Chinese government, with whom we also have an excellent comprehensive strategic partnership which is advancing Australia's economic interests. And let's not forget, Australia is home to a large number, over 1 million, of Australians of Chinese descent. And so there is a rich, I think, people-to-people contact between Australia and China as well. So it is not beyond our wits and ability and interest to be able to draw both of these relationships together and work constructively with both.
Would you like to see the airport on Manus Island?
Sorry?
Would you like to see the airport on Manus Island be part of this base and that airport use?
Oh, that's detail we're not getting into at this
The
stage.
Vice President said that the United States would work with PNG and Australia to protect the sovereignty of the waters surrounding PNG. Are we to read into that would include increased freedom of navigation patrols? And secondly, when did you learn from the Vice President that the US was signing on to Manus?
Oh, we've been aware of that over the last little while. Yeah.
And in terms of the freedom of navigation? You think
Well, again, that's getting into a level of operational detail that I wouldn't be commenting on here. I mean, what Australia...
Article 4 and 5 of the 1951 ANZUS Treaty is still in very colonialistic languages. You think Pacific Island...
I just might finish answering the question of the gentleman here. And
Do
happy.
you think Pacific Island Defence Force and their sovereign states will seek the ANZUS Treaty partners to review those two particular provisions of the 1951 treaty and still deny the ability of Pacific Island states to raise their own army?
Well, all aspects of our involvement at Lombrum are at the invitation of the Papua New Guinean government. And so anything we are doing there in partnership and cooperation with the government of Papua New Guinea or any of the other partners who are involved, whether it's the United States or anyone else, that is being done under the sovereignty and at the invitation of the Papua New Guinean government. And so to the extent that other issues are raised in the context of that, well, that is purely at the opportunity of the Papua New Guinean government.
So what would you say to some of the governor and others in Manus, the province, who are a bit concerned about this, that they say it's sort of PNG, the wording, excuse me, is what they've referred to as sort of prostituting themselves out to Australia and the United States. What would you say to that criticism?
I would say that's an internal matter within Papua New Guinea, and I'll leave that to internal matters within Papua New Guinea. I'm no stranger to dealing with those issues when it comes to Manus Island and the issues between provinces and the central government, and I know full well to leave that to the direct discussion between those participants.
PM, there's been a lot of internal wrangling over the wording of the communique. There's obviously some very fiery words from both President Xi and Vice President Pence yesterday in terms of the trade dispute and things like that, and some warnings from China about the dangers of trade wars and cold wars and hot wars. Do you think that we're no closer, and if anything, we're further apart in having a resolution to the trade war between China and the US?
I think every day brings us closer to a resolution of it. That was certainly the nature of the discussion I had with Vice President Pence yesterday. Remarks that were made by President of the White House, I understand, yesterday. And while there is much commentary and there are many things that are said, I think the practical elements of what all the other member economies here at APEC have made very clear in our discussions is that, of course, we want to see these matters resolved sooner rather than later. It doesn't assist the broader economic growth. In fact, the IMF today made their contribution and highlighted that this could potentially, over a longer period of time, if it were not to be resolved, not that they were highlighting that as a likelihood, but that would have an impact on global and regional economic growth. And we all understand that, and those sentiments have been expressed both to the United States and to China. So I think they're fully aware, because these things also impact their economies. about the need to have a sensible resolution of these issues. And the issues have become very well known, whether it's on WTO, whether it's on other matters like intellectual property and the like. These are all openly discussed, and I think there is a lot more progress being made here than I think is probably being acknowledged, and it's certainly not taking place in the context of the more excitable language about how some of these debates are occurring.
We're hearing some reports about a bit of a diplomatic blow-up between Chinese officials and Papua New Guinean officials. Do you think the Chinese are perhaps a little surprised by the pushback by some of the traditionally Western allies at their movements into the region and their keenness to expand?
Well, what our role here is, we've been very supportive, obviously, of Papua New Guinea, not just in hosting this event. And as you can see, the HMS Adelaide is out there in the waters and provided a backdrop to the leaders' meeting as we're there as they looked out the window. And so we've been here. We've had everyone from our federal police and other security assistants. We've had health officials here. I've even had my own brother here, who's a paramedic, who's been part of the St John's ambulance arrangements up here. I caught up with him yesterday, and they've been doing a fantastic job with the volunteers. So we've all been very involved up here, and that includes paying absolute respect to our host as chair of the meeting to bring the communique to a final position. That is their responsibility as the chair, and we're providing very strong support to the chair in Papua New Guinea and Peter O'Neill to bring those matters to a conclusion.
APEC is about cooperation. Given the comments by Vice President Pence and President Xi in the last 24 hours or so, is this a fractious family relationship, and how can it be repaired?
Well, no, I don't agree with your assessment. I think that overly exaggerates the situation. And what I can tell you is I think there's a lot more pragmatism going on here than people have been prepared to acknowledge in the commentary. There's a lot of movement under the water. With the duck, it'll paddle pretty quickly under the water. There's a lot of that going on, and I'm encouraged by that. I'm encouraged by the disposition at the end of the day to try and have something resolved, because it's basically in everybody's interests. It's in everybody's interest for these matters to be resolved. And if we're patient, if we just stay measured, I think in both our contributions and our assessment of these things, then I think we'll continue to make a lot of progress. And I'd want to reassure Australians that what we are doing here is everything we can to ensure that these matters are addressed pragmatically, constructively, and at the end of the day in a way that would see our regional economy and our regional partners here that their interests are protected. I mean, APEC is a group of economies, and whether it was at the East Asian Summit earlier, independent sovereign states and nations who simply just want to get on with business. We all get on with each other, and we just want to keep getting on with each other, because I observed that under APEC we have seen a more than doubling, since it was first established, more than doubling in the regional GDP of these participating economies. And on top of that, the tariff barriers have fallen from about an average of 16% down to 6%. So this is an organisation that's got some good results, that has really increased the prosperity of our region. That's why we're here. That's why people come along here. They come here because they want to see the economies cooperate more for our mutual benefit. So today, for example, I was focused in my interventions on how we're taking fintech forward, how we're taking forward financial technology, which supports the digitisation of our economy, which is more inclusive to people in the region. I mean, what we were just talking about here with the electrification initiative, this is about connecting remote areas of what is a very remote country where people live in poverty to a future. Now, how good's that? That's why we're here. That's why we're doing it. That's what Step Up's all about. But I better step up and get back into the meeting.
Relationship with PNG?
Yeah.
Just one more question on the bilateral relationship. China's extended visa-free movement between Papua New Guinean politicians and diplomats and China, reciprocal. Would Australia consider that for its nearest neighbour, Papua New Guinea?
The Papua New Guinean government, as well as all the other Pacific Island Forum nations, are very well aware of the facilitation mechanisms that we're putting in place for each of them, and this is an important part of how we're managing these relationships. And as you know, we've provided some assistance for some of those states to be able to be represented here at the forum. This is what we do. We're friends, we're family. We support our friends and family so they can participate. I think that has been one of the most important parts of APEC. that Papua New Guinea was able to bring the voice of the Pacific Island forums to, the strongest powers in the world. And I think they should be commended for doing that. They have really raised the voice of Pacific Islands in this forum, and Australia has always understood that voice and will continue to be a very strong supporter of that voice.
PM, I couldn't help but notice the Chilean delegation chastised you for wearing a tie this morning. Is this a gift that you're wearing this afternoon?
This was given to me by Rimbic Pato some years ago when I was up here quite frequently, and I thought I should wear it out of respect to our host, but the tie was actually designed by Peter O'Neill himself, so he's not only a strong Prime Minister, he's not too bad on the tie design either. Okay, thanks very much. Cheers. Sorry? Yes, I'll just comment quickly on that. Well, they're all looking forward to it, which is great. I'm looking forward to hosting the Pacific Island Forum leaders at the residence tonight. I suspect I'll turn a few things over on the barbecue, and there's a lot of interest, and I think it's just a great time. It's a family barbecue. That's what it is. It's a Pacific family barbecue, and we can talk about the events of the last couple of days, and I can also be sharing them a lot more about, where we're looking to work with them on so many initiatives as part of our Step Up program in the Pacific. It's been incredibly well received, both by Pacific Island Forum members as well as our key partners in the region. And as I said to President Xi, we'll work with everybody when we're trying to focus on the development and the advancement of the Pacific. If that's what it's about, there's an opportunity to work together. And we need to assist these countries to be stronger, because when they're stronger, both in their sovereignty, in their independence, in their economy, that's all very good news for Australia. Very important for Australia that we achieve those objectives, and that's why we're doing it, because it helps individual Australians that the Pacific Islands do better than they are now. Thanks very much.